Melissa, hello. I wanted to talk to you.
Hello.
So Melissa is the host of the Executive Connect podcast, and I am happy to have you here. I'm not going to do an intro. I'll let you intro yourself if you want, but I want to just we were having an amazing conversation in preparation for this, and I'm just going to pick up where we left off, if that's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
let's do it.
So I wanted to talk to you today, and I wanted to kind of share some of the knowledge and skills that you have with the kind of consultant group that we work with, because you are one of the most masterful networkers that I've ever met. And the reason I think that isn't just because you have skills and you know how to do it, it's that you have figured out some ways to do this at scale. I don't know if you've realized that, but in my perception of kind of how you're working, both within the Austin technology community and then spreading out into the kind of women's executive space in the United States, and then spreading out into different methods globally. You are doing all of that from the suburbs of Austin with 4 kids under your roof, and two very, very different roles that you play in your professional life, and seem to be having a great time at it at the same time. So, huge respect and admiration from me, whose weakness is I tend to sit in my little office and just be an introvert and not want to reach out. Although I know that seems strange, but that is the truth. So, what is the kind of method behind your madness, my friend?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's always been, and it will continue to be, a mindset. I think for me, one of the things I've always done pretty well is have meaningful relationships, not transactional relationships. I think in the world we live in today, everything is, transactional, and we ask for things before we give to the person we're asking from. And so when I show up in a relationship with somebody I don't know, I want to understand them and what is their needs. And then what I want to do is I want to fill those needs while bringing them up. So it could be anything from they need a real estate agent, they need a babysitter, they need a cybersecurity service. I want to understand where they are. I want to help them fill that need with a person, and then continue to collaborate and build community and rise together. I think we're all better when we work together and collaborate together and have community. So I love that you mentioned, community, because I look at it, I have community with myself first. I make sure I'm in a healthy mind space. I'm taking care of me, and then I move out from there, and that cascades to my marriage, to my children, to my Austin community, to my Austin women that I'm close with, to the job that I have around the world. It all is a cascade to my church that I work with locally. It's all built in faith, and it's all built in purpose. And I really sit in that purpose every day on what I'm doing and what I'm focused on.
You're so great. So values. I would never be able to say something so nice. That's wonderful. And so you are involved in, let's just start with giving people kind of the lay of the land, maybe. You work in cybersecurity as a part of a cybersecurity company. You also have a executive facing podcast that is really covering all topics around leadership. Is there an intersection between these two things you do? Or do they fill kind of different kind of cups within your personality and desires?
No, there's a lot of intersection actually between cybersecurity and your brand and your life. A lot of times in cybersecurity, we're waiting if and when a cyber attack happens. So we're not making a plan until things hit the fan. And that's the wrong way to look at cybersecurity, because it's a very downward spiral if we don't look at it. And it's the same thing with us. If we're not focused on, where we're going, what we want for our life, then it's a downward spiral. Then our life's going to take a hold, and the world that surrounds us, the negative news, the negative people, all the things that happen in our life are going to just lead us through our life versus us leading our lives. And so there is an intersection, and I like to say I provide life hacks to people on things I've learned along the way and how I do things and how I look at the world from a different lens.
Yeah. Let's talk about the things that you do on the networking side. Here's my observations, okay? And we'll discuss my observations. One is you are a amazing connector of people. And it's even in the title of your podcast, but you are really active in bringing groups of people physically together in the same room, and you take the initiative for doing that with large groups of people. I perceive to be all the time. Is that purposeful? Like, is that correct?
Yes, it's very purposeful. It's very, I believe in bringing like-minded people together to give and get in a way that's mutually beneficial, and as a unit raising each other up, whatever the give-get is, and raising each other up. I think there's something to be said to bring people, whether it's at my church, people of faith, bring us together to raise in our faith, whether it's executive women in Austin, bring us together to raise us, or it's I sit on 2 boards inside the casino gaming industry. One's called Global Gaming Women. I lead their Game Changer series, which I have brought together many amazing women that I consider my friends, game changer women that have broken through glass ceilings and supported their teams along the way. And I've brought male allies. I've had 2 fantastic men that work as CEOs of supplier companies, and 1 fantastic CEO that works in tribal gaming. So I sit on those 2 boards. I bring those 2 communities together with Global Gaming Women and Male Allies. And then I also am very passionate about, I sit on the Global Gaming Business Innovation Group's 40 Under 40. So bringing under 40 leaders together to keep them in our industry, because I do feel we're losing a lot of those very smart, talented people outside the casino gaming industry. So I'm passionate about that as well. I'm also very involved in Austin Women in Technology. I speak a lot to the younger generation. And really just life hacks, like what I've experienced in my career, sharing my stories, the good, the bad, the raw. My life has been messy. I'm messy. I don't pronounce and speak perfectly, and I am okay with that. And I just lean into that about myself and sharing that with others. And I really lead in a place of faith. And it's funny, Lauren, I received an award last year, which was really special for me. It was the Patty Becker Pay It Forward Award. I had no idea I was getting this award. It is really how I lead my life, is paying it forward quietly and silently, not sharing how I help people or when I help people, or I don't share publicly that I give money to people that are homeless in Austin, or that I've helped people go through college and help them pay for their college. I don't share any of that, but it's special to me to get that award, because it means something, and it means that people are paying attention to, like you said, what I'm doing. And it's not me. I'm just the person that's sharing it and really trying to bring and shine positive light in our world.
Yeah. Were there experiences that you had earlier in your career where that kind of like made you stop and say, oh, wait a second, like this is why I should be connecting people? Or like, were there some early experiences within your kind of first decade of your career that kind of established this pattern of giving and connecting?
Look, I was the introverted kid, dyslexic, ADD. I wasn't comfortable speaking, but I made people feel safe. Like they told me things, not that I asked, they just told me things. And I just shared, hey, yeah, I'm also nervous about the test. And, they're nervous about the test. And we built relationship in that situation, being nervous about a test or, being nervous to network, showing up to networking events. And I was standing in the corner, eating my food, drinking my drink by myself. And somebody else was doing it. And we slowly inched towards each other. And so I think, another thing that has been a guiding principle to me is my intuition and paying attention to life, and not letting it harden my heart, right? We're all going to go through the suck and difficult times and challenging times, but really leaning into those experiences because, the suck really dictates what becomes our northern compass. A lot of times what I'm talking about is exactly what you said, experiences that have forced me out of my comfort zone to do the things, to be the connector. Or people would ask me, hey, I know, you have a friend that's a real estate agent. Can you introduce me? And I just continued to start doing that just because.
Mm-hmm. Group. I'm going to be a bit of a consultant here with you for a second, okay? I'm trying to decipher your method. So, paying it forward with individuals, bucket one, leads to being the organizing function for groups of people, communities of people within that same giving mindset, participating in boards and programs and taking leadership positions to organize key activities within those larger groups. What I'm saying is I'm seeing your megaphone here. If we're a cone, we're expanding and getting bigger and bigger by each, like finding these ways of connecting with broader and broader groups. You also speak across the world on various topics. Tell us, like, what are you getting? You told me before the call, I hope it's okay to share this part, that you spoke 31 times last year unpaid with travel all over the world. I will just say you have a very young child at home. In addition to teenagers, which I will tell you I think are harder than young children. So that I would never, that is a real sacrifice to do that. Why did you do it? What did you get out of it? What did you learn from it?
Yeah, a lot of it's rooted in my faith. And I think it's our gift to play our hand that we're dealt. And then it's our responsibility to give it away and pass the baton. So earlier this last year, I started our Game Changer series, kind of rebranding for global gaming women. I since have passed the baton to somebody else running it in Europe, and given it away. And that's kind of where my mindset is a lot with things. But it is very focus and purpose, right? I start my day with writing. What do I need to accomplish? How do I need to accomplish before I get on this podcast? I set goals for, and prayers for hoping our time together helps another, just one other person, inspires them to do something they therefore otherwise wouldn't, or take a bold step, or do something innovatively. And I think that is a lot of who I am. I am drawn and motivated to share, tips and tricks and tidbits with whoever will listen to help them, lead a better life. Because I do feel that a lot of my life, I've had fantastic people that have come in, mentored me, still my friends, 20, 30 years of friendships plus, and all of them have been the sum total of where I am today. And even the difficult, terrible people that I've had to work with or been managed by that I didn't see eye to eye with. Some of those really difficult, painful bosses have been the best thing for me in my life to realize what I don't want in a boss and what I am not going to live in my life. And so I'll call it the suck that we go through leads us to really where we want to live and how we want to position our life for the better.
Yes, I have some of those stories as well. I'll tell one quickly if it's okay. So my first year out of college, I worked at a very large corporate litigation firm representing the automotive industry in downtown Chicago. The firm had 10 floors of the Aon Center, which is the second tallest building in Chicago. No, yeah, right after like the Willis Tower. It's 80 stories or something. And this is 2001, right? So like right after my interview for this job actually was September 1st, like September 11th, like, and different story, but I got the job and we would work, 80 hours a week. And I was more or less like a legal assistant. And this young female attorney who was probably at the time like in her early 30s looked at me and she said, "Go find my spaghetti." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Go find my spaghetti. Like I left my dinner somewhere." And I was like, "Okay. Where were you?" She goes, "I don't know. I was on like one of the like floors." So I had to go 10 floors looking for leftover spaghetti. And I thought to myself, I am never going to be like that bitch. Like, I am never going to treat someone who is capable, who works for me to help me at 8 o'clock at night to treat them like that. Like, at least I'll say it might be on the 65th floor. You need leverage and you need help, but you should never treat people like that. And like, that was this moment for me where I was like, nope, never going to do that. I'm always going to show people, regardless of their role in the organization, that they deserve respect, because that helps them contribute their greatest efforts to the larger cause. I shortly thereafter quit that job and did not look back. Like I literally quit and I was like, I'm not even giving you 2 weeks. Like, screw you guys, right? Like there is tit for tat for that. That was my worst terrible manager story. And if she's out there and she listens to this, she can listen to it. I do not like you. It's fine.
But that's an important point, right? Is respecting people, age, background, all the things, gender, race, wherever they are right now. And if they disrespect you, that doesn't mean you take it, right? That means you understand where they are, right? A lot of times I think, people want to do good. They want to, be kind. We're just stuck in our own lens. A lot of times I know I had a terrible boss that, just did not like me. It just could not, it just was terrible. But when I started to look at it, his whole life was managed and controlled by, confident women. And I stepped into that a different way for his benefit. And I didn't take things like, okay, he's coming at me, it's me. I didn't sit in victim, I guess is the way to explain it. I understood his perspective. When he disrespected me, I just said, "Hey, would you mind doing this?" And I'd pull him aside when nobody was around, and I'd said, "Hey, look, that was foul. Let's work through this." And so I think understanding too where people are and not allowing them, because that energy and that interaction with that woman affected you, affected your mood, affected your attitude. It wasn't good for you or her or the company.
Or the client.
No. Yeah.
Just to,
and so understanding that, right? And going and not sitting in that. And, I give people some grace. I would have done the same thing, handled it, given her spaghetti, and then said, "Hey, just so you know, this is my role. I'm happy to help, but next time I lose my spaghetti, I'll be calling you." And so
22-year-old me would never, and like I said, no, I never would. You're more courageous than I would be. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, times were different 20 odd years ago. Like,
and we were younger, right?
Sorry.
We were younger. We
We were
had
younger,
different
but
confidence
I think the
and
culture was different too. Like, I don't know. I think now when I've had interactions, like we had a team of interns with us, and there were two really, really bright young women from the University of Texas. And I think they were much less scared to give feedback. I think they knew it was they saw it as an expectation. Whereas 25 years ago, like I did not see it as an expectation of me. Like my role was to not give, like that was not my role. I was not to give feedback. And I think some of that culturally has shifted a bit, I hope.
yeah, I hope so too. I think, we got to learn how to speak our mind too and get our needs met, right? And not sit in the victim and and sometimes it does happen, and we're still in these situations in today's age, and you have to decide, are you going to sit in that culture, or are you going to pivot? Are you going to leave? And leaving for those reasons is very powerful, and taking and saying to yourself, you're not going to be treated that way. And so I think, we really have to be respectful of people, and really the next layer of that is understanding where they are. They may have had just a bad day. I have bad days sometimes, and I'm shorter tempered than I normally am, and not as spunky. And when I could tell people, or like, what's up with her, I'll usually, off arm them, or, just say, hey, look, it's a weird day, I didn't get sleep, or hey, it's, I flew in last night at 2 a.m, and give them the grace versus having them wonder where they are, where I am, and why I'm like that.
Yeah. I have a question for you. So if we think about our audience is primarily consultants. Okay. So independent consultants, fractional executives, kind of people who serve clients. It's a kind of a tricky relationship because it's different than a boss, like a manager relationship. It's different than a friendship. If something happens like this, like what would be your advice to a consultant and a client with a client facing conversation about giving the same kind of feedback?
I think you got to have the relationship. This goes back to relationships too, right? Like if you're serving a client, I understand my clients. I very much know a lot about them. Are they married? Are they not married? I spend time looking at a person as an entire, the whole human, or however you say that. But as a whole, it's not just transactional. I'm there to serve them, to offer them these services. I look at it like, I'm there to understand them, to learn more about them, to be a partner with them, a friend to them. And if you have those kind of relationships and somebody offends you, you have more leeway to say things to them, right? The way I interact with certain people and certain clients, sometimes people will be like, but I have a different relationship with them. I have, some clients I've been dealing with for 13 years since I've been in the gaming industry. They knew me before I had kids. Before I, some of them I've known even longer. And I think you got to have the relationship to say, hey, what the heck were you doing? If you don't have the relationship, you could actually hinder your working relationship with them. And so I think you need to know where you stand. And if you just met someone and you tell them, hey, you're being a real big jerk, they're probably not going to want to work with you. So sometimes you have to sit in it for a little bit and say, all right, I'm going to give you once, twice, but 3 times you're out, right? But you got to, once they do it, you got to say, okay, now I need to understand them more and take the time to understand why they were short with you, why they slammed the door in your face, what is causing these interactions.
Why did they lose their spaghetti in the first place?
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. That's a great way of looking at it. And asking her those questions. Hey, where were you? Do you normally go down to the second floor? And
you must have been
what's
really
on the
busy to
second
forget
floor?
half your dinner somewhere.
Yes.
I think this is true. Okay, I want to land this point. I think it's super important. My belief is aligned to yours. When you have a client relationship, you have a duty to the work, and you must be objective to reach the outcomes to achieve that work. That being said, there is another side to that coin. You have a duty to have a deep and personal relationship with that client, because that client is trying to achieve that work. Your job is to understand that is not just about whatever their job is, okay? They have personal motivations. They have aspirations. They have a whole history that has brought them to that moment. And they have things happening in their world outside of work. And all of those things are going to interact when they are making decisions or driving conversations with other people. And your job is to understand all of those dynamics. And that is not written in your job description. It is not taught to you in the consulting firm you came from. In fact, it's never taught to you or spoken of. It's actually a huge miss for them, in my opinion. But I always think my North Star for me in my personal consulting work, and I hope for our team, is that we want to help our clients achieve whatever goal they want to achieve. I say it's getting them promoted because that's really easy to picture, but it's not always getting promoted, right? Some people don't care. So it's whatever that goal is. You are there to help in the service of that goal. And so to do that, you have to have this relationship with them. So when these bad things happen, you understand the context around them and have the permission to have that direct conversation in whatever way they're going to hear it, right? You have to know how they're going to hear it in order for it to be useful. I don't know. It's just
Right. Like, let's say you had a client of yours who was a C-suite executive and he lost his wife, and she was a stay-at-home wife, and everything in his life, she was preparing and organizing and meals and his travel, and now all of a sudden she's gone. And he is short-tempered, disjointed, disorganized. What would happen if you helped him do something that he therefore didn't know how to do? Maybe it could be something as simple as like preparing a meal or bringing him in lunch, or, something that he doesn't have to think about. And I think when it's really good for the client and it's really good for you when you can show up and provide that for someone without him having to tell you.
Yeah. Like introducing him to the Disney planner.
Yes. Or food delivery services or
Or if you've traveled and he's not used to organizing travel, I'm just gonna riff on this. You're like, listen, when you land at Heathrow, I've been to Heathrow. When you land at Heathrow, you're gonna go here. You're gonna buy this ticket. Don't take this service. This is the app to get the special car service. We can organize, give the tips that everybody's got their own thing that they know more about than anyone else. But the important thing is find the gap that they have but you have to know how to do that, right? You have to know them enough to know how to do that. Yeah.
I've had many grown men ask me for the most bizarre things I've ever been asked for in my life. Something similar to your spaghetti. I've had someone ask me to carry their golf clubs, their golf cart. I didn't think anything of it. I picked the golf clubs up. Well, he had hip surgery. First of all, I was thinking in my mind when I found that out, why are you golfing? But he was putting, right? He couldn't carry the golf clubs, but he didn't want to tell all the other men he was golfing with that he couldn't golf. So he was comfortable, but I had already known that little fact. I already knew what was going on, so I went and grabbed his clubs. And so these kind of things are small but big things. Mm-hmm. And I think when we start looking at the world in that lens, it's amazing what'll happen to you. I will just say, instead of being transactional with your relationships with your partner, your friends, your clients, your colleagues, be more giving and thank people. I feel like we've lost the word thank you, the words thank you. I was just with my kids this past weekend at a restaurant, and the waiter said to me, "Oh my God, I can't believe your kids said thank you.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Really bad.
I know exactly what you mean. I see it too, or like, I can't believe, yeah. Well, let me wrap this up, okay? I want to net out kind of what I've learned from this conversation, and then we'll leave it there. I went into this conversation very systems oriented and thinking like, Melissa's got a system. I think Melissa has a system. I don't know if Melissa knows she has a system and works her system, but I do think there is a system, which is start at the individual. Your motive should be to give. Trust that things will come from that. Start with the individual and then spread that out, and increasingly in groups where your giving can have an increasingly large impact.
And it starts with you.
It starts with you. It is your responsibility to learn the individuals and have the gratitude back when the giving comes back towards you.
Yeah, I start every single day with me first, always, because I gotta be right with me and my not only my physical health, but my mental health, my energy levels, and then I can take care of others. When it's the other direction, that's what happens with burnout and health challenges, and there's a whole slew of things that go down from there. So every day I start with me, and I write and I organize it every day. 3 things I need to accomplish today. Top 3 things. And then the next day, exactly. When I go to the next day, I look back on the top 3 things I accomplished. Did I get them all done? Were they important? And what did I learn?
That's
right.
Awesome.
And just moving through this every day. And some days I miss it. Some days I have to start the ground running through Heathrow Airport or running wherever I got to run. But I map a plan and I work my plan.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. And if folks that want to follow Melissa, it's the Executive Connect podcast. Go and check it out. She's doing great work, really just in the service of others. No real ulterior motives that she has there other than it's a fun thing to do and it's in service of others. So thank you, Melissa, so much. And I'm sure I will see you really soon. That's it.
Thank you for having me on.